movie. And then, just to fit in the schedule, let's move to our third and last speaker, which is Mariusz Finkielsztein. Let me introduce him. Mariusz Finkielsztein is assistant professor at the Institute of Sociology at the Collegium Civitas, Poland, and the secretary of the International Society of Boredom Studies, and the co-organizing of the Boredom Conference and co-director of the Journal of Boredom Studies. And the title of his presentation today, is Les Nuits Désertes, or The Boredom of Empires. Thank you very much, Mariusz, and thank you very much for organizing all this and for all your organization work, which is always exhausting and very much necessary. So the word is yours. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for introducing me, and I must introduce my subject because this is not self-explanatory. Les Nuits Désertes. This is why. This is because my subject is the book. One book, particular book, marvelous book, I suppose, by Julien Gracq, Le Rivage de Syrtes. The Syrtes, so the English translation is the opposing shore, but I suppose this is not the exact translation because there is the closed sea of Syrte, and Syrte, this is the name of the sea, and there are different shores of this sea, so not necessarily opposing shore because the French title is the Rivage, so the shore of Syrte. Okay, but basically I want to explain boredom in this novel because I suppose first of all that this is not a very well known novel. I myself last year bought the new version of the book that was published originally 15 years ago. So they still have new copies. So this means that this is not very popular. And I know why. But I suppose this is worth analyzing this book in the context of boredom, because when I read this book, I was marveled that this is exactly the book about the boredom. There is boredom everywhere. I know that there's many more novels about boredom, but I feel there's something special here. Okay, first of all, this is very well-known book in France. Outside France, I cannot find much publications, not so many in Anglo-Saxon world. It won a Goncourt Prize, the most noble literary honor in France, but Gracq never accepted it because he was against commercialization of literature. According to him, writer is somebody who reflects, read, and not be all the time in press and the television, for example. First of all, Julien Gracq, it's a synonym or Louis Poirier, high school teacher privately. He was a teacher of geography and history, and this is quite accurate for the novel. Julien is from the main character of Stendhal's The Red and the Blank, Julien Sorel, and Gracq is from Gracchi brothers, the late Roman reformers. He tried to reform Roman Republic. He failed. So I suppose this refers to this doom of inevitable failure. So it fits nicely with the book, I suppose. And the book is not about events, actions. This is not like these romantic novels. Action, happy ending. Is there an ending here? I'm not sure. First of all, this is poetic, mysterious, and out of time atmosphere, and the mood of demise, anticipation, languorous suspense. I found this quote in some comment, and I suppose I find it very, very apt to the novel. So first of all, very shortly, the plot about which we're speaking. I tried not to bore with the whole plot to avoid spoilers as well. But as I said, the action events are not so important. So first of all, we have this narrator, Aldo, young, bored aristocrat from the ruling class. And it happened in the imaginary geography. There is no our world. There is some elements that resemble our world, and the Mediterranean, first of all, and it happened in Orsenna, oligarchic state resembling Venice. So this decadence element here. Um, and Orsenna is in the phony war, the war without war. Actually, they do nothing, but officially there is war, but there are no actions. With Farghestan, the country across the closed Sea of Syrtes, the opposite shore. This is the opposite shore. And many people from Orsenna is obsessed with Farghestan, with this stalemate of those two powers, and they somehow wanted to change it, yeah, because of mood of boredom. And the Syrte, I checked the etymology, and there are some ideas that it could mean, that could refer to two gulfs in the southern Mediterranean coast of Libya and Tunisia, Sirta Minor and Sirta Major. This was a gulf, and there's well known for calm and very very calm waters without any storms, and this is like an oily swamp. Yeah, this is something like this, and I suppose it fit nicely with the book, with this boredom, eventless, languish atmosphere. And Aldo, out of boredom, becomes a secret observer for the scenery, the governing body, like in Venice, very similar institution, I suppose, and go to provincial fortress on the shore of the Syrtes. And this is very outskirts of the empire. There is a rundown fortress. Soldiers are not soldiers anymore because they are hired as an agricultural workers because they have nothing to do as a soldiers. Everything is in ruin. Yeah, this is this mood of demise everywhere. And he met also his old friend Vanessa Aldobrandi, and she became his lover. And she come from the well-known family in Orsenna, known for being traitors. And Aldo, because of Vanessa, is put in the middle of intrigue aimed at reigniting the old hostilities with Farghestan. So yeah, I would stop in this moment, but you see the coordinates. Yeah, imaginary geography. I give you the coordinates in red. Yeah, so young, bored,
Tony, sí,
aristocrat.
quedamos a las 8:30 más o menos. Yo igual te voy a escribir, ahorita Julia no tiene línea.
Please, Tony, may you mute your...
Okay.
That's it. Sorry, Mariusz.
Yeah, so we have young, bored, aristocrat, imaginary geography. This is not important where it is. Provincial fortress, some intrigue and some consisting of love. Okay. And the main inspiration for Gracq, as he already said it openly, was Oswald Spengler, Opus Magnum, The Decline of the West. The Spengler was the prime representative of historical catastrophism and pessimism in German thought. So you see, this was published just after the First World War, and I suppose this is not coincidence. It was written during the war and was very popular in 20s, 30s. Yeah, we all know history more or less, so we see that those kinds of ideas could be popular at such a time. And Oswald Spengler has this idea, not novel idea, but this is a new book about this new theory, that culture is like a living creature, and that it reaches old age. Yeah, it goes through age stages like childhood, teenage age, adulthood, and then he reaches his end, and the death of the culture is inevitable in a way. So this is a pessimistic way. And the last decadent state of the culture is called civilization, according to Spengler. So the civilization turns in when the culture actualizes its soul, so reaches its full possibilities. So this is paradoxical. When you are at the top, the decline started. The aim was attained, the idea, the entire content of inner possibilities fulfilled and made externally actual, and the culture suddenly hardens, it mortifies, its blood congeals, its force breaks down, and it becomes civilization. And civilization is characterized by the atrophy of internal dynamics and the dominance of artificial products of history. So this is like example can be the neoclassical movements. When the culture is dying, the culture starts to recalling its childhood. So this is all these classical neoclassical movements. And we see lack of novelty. And now we have postmodernity. Everything already was. We cannot have anything new. We try to give something novel, but we fatalistically see that it is impossible. Everything already was. And Gracq saw this book as a prophetic, accurately describing our own epoch. Okay, of course, this was from 1951. The book is, but still, I suppose this is about globalization, global capitalism, that the Western culture that colonized almost all of the world, is demising, according to Spengler and according to Gracq, allegedly. And demise the decadence of Orsenna. I give you the quote to taste the style, at least in translation, the style of Gracq. This is the page 1. This is what we are starting with. Orsenna's scenery survives as if in the shadow of glory accrued in ages past from its military victories over the infidel and from the fabled profits of its commerce with the East. Its nugacious activity, still tranquil and almost majestic, is that of a patriarch whose inevitably robust appearance generates disbelief as to death's gradual progress with his person. Public duties and services to the state, for which the zeal of Orsenna, ancient patriciate, has remained legendary, therefore offer few inducements in this double condition to whatever is aspiring and excitable in its young people's impulses. Declining years mark the time and main most effective accedes to duties in scenery. In general, there are several dams. First of all, repetition. The past is the ruling time in Orsenna. Secondly, there is gerontocracy here, the rule of the elders. You can make a career and go to scenery when somebody is dead. This is similar to public universities in many countries. There are new positions only when somebody is dead or go to retirement, but they don't have retirement then. And I suppose this is the example of structural inertia. There are some changes, but they are due to inert functioning of the institution, not that we revolutionize or change consciously the rules. So everything is it was at the beginning, and so on, so on. Second quality of civilization is the transition between ritual and ritualism. So ritual, we all know, but it transforms meaningless chaos that we know as a word into meaningful order. And this is also a community building and maintaining act. Here, over time, the rituals can be emptied of meaning and the content and become like boring procedures led by cliches. We just recreate them without recreating their spirit, that moved, the motion them in the past. And the example from Gracq that about festivities in Orsenna, the expression of people of the people in the streets on feast day was that of boredom beneath an over-scrupulous imitation of pleasure. Loyalty to tradition having become almost a fetish, expressed in the impoverishment of a blood incapable of fresh creations. Yeah, so we have all these coordinates. Yeah, loyalty to tradition, lack of fresh, novel ideas. We recreate all without pleasure. Yeah, we boringly recreate the past and the past traditions. Yeah, and there is also metaphor of Orsenna as an old man, or sometimes as an old human being in general. Okay, that has lived too long. Yeah, there are numerous quotes that specify this motive. Yeah, you live too long. Yeah, after the adventurous life, you just recalling. You cannot stop recalling your past, but probably you should stop your life because this is really too long. Um, and Orsenna is bored. Orsenna is bored with its existence, and due to this boredom, he looked for some change. And in this particular case, they go into the direction of confrontation with Farghestan. So they invite doom upon itself because of boredom. Because mood of boredom, I suppose this is the defining feature of this novel. There's a collective mood of boredom, languor, and anticipation of that something must happen soon. And the novel is the example of 20th century motive, literary motive of waiting for barbarians. Yeah, we have order, and this is Orsenna, everything which is about tradition, being old and boring, and barbarians that are irrational, ahistorical, but also they symbolize change, something new, dangerous, maybe exciting even. So there are positive and negative elements here. And we see bored people in the novel. And I suppose Orsenna citizens are bored with the empire. And due to this, they welcome the doom, welcome the end of the statehood, either by idleness, I just do nothing, I don't care what will be happening, or by destructive or oppositional activities. For example, we can collaborate with the enemy out of boredom because we won't change so much. Yeah, and there's a poem by Paul Verlaine Langer, and I suppose this is exactly the picture we see in the novel by Gracq. I am the empire in the last of its decline, that sees the tall, fair-haired barbarians pass the while, composing indolent acrostics in a style of gold with language sounds on dancing in each line. Yeah, so basically, this is not the whole poem, but basically the element here is that there are barbarians crossing our territories. There are bottle faults, bloody bottles probably, but we don't care. We just write some poems out of boredom, melancholy, and the languor. We don't care because we are so deeply bored with life in general, but with this particular empire statehood, we don't care. So we have here bored elite. One of the things is the political element that young aristocrats cannot contribute meaningfully into the political system. For example, there is an inhibition of becoming. They cannot become the man they wanted, fulfill their aspirations, expectations, and so on. Then lack of agency. Yeah, they cannot change it because this is led by others, older, and they go into boring hedonism. Yeah, like Aldo said. Yeah, I participated wholeheartedly in their feverish diversions, their enthusiasm of the day, their passions of the week. Yeah, and this is about a precautions yawn rewards and a light too long and thrown upon the heart. So Elite is also exhausted and bored with ruling, with being responsible for the statehood. Yeah, and the inevitable effect is boredom. And the last issue is that, maybe the Orsenna and maybe empires just fall apart and demise because of boredom of their subjects and of their citizens as well, and the ruling classes. Um, what we see in Gracq novel that in Orsenna going to Syrtes, to this provincial fortress, to be civil, have some civil duties, is a purgatory in which to expiate some defections of service by years of interminable ennui. Yeah, so the empire produces a lot of boredom by mere functioning, and we can compare it with the British Empire. And I recommend you a very great book by Jeffrey Auerbach. By the way, he presented at the first conference, Boredom conference, the book Imperial Boredom, when he concluded that boredom was a defining feature of British Empire, especially in the 19th century, when I suppose British Empire was already in a decadent phase as a civilization. So the British Imperial experience, as Auerbach said, was just boredom and disappointment. There's a lot of bureaucracy, a lot of dull tasks, and everything was boring for the governors, for the officials, and for their subjects as well. So, as a word of conclusion, we can say that, first of all, Gracq's novel is a great literary illustration of the theories of civilization demise. I suppose Gracq just illustrates the Spengler's ideas, even much better than Spengler himself. Secondly, this is the depiction of the decadent society with bored and languorous alike. They doesn't care, and we have this paradoxical element that the citizens are so bored that the spectacle of destruction by barbarians, or mere anticipation of it, seems to be more pleasurable than living in the empire. Yeah. So we are so exhausted, so bored, that we really consider collaborating with the enemy or doing nothing to contribute to survival of the empire in the time of crisis. Yeah, we see the doom and the violence and the end, the fall of the empire, more pleasurable than just living in it. Yeah, and I suppose here we have a very interesting example of the collective mood that the whole society of Orsenna seems to experience societal existential boredom. I would call it like this, because this is existential. This is a lack of meaning, but in this very deep sense, absurdity of the existence. And this is on the societal level. This is my last point, I suppose. Yeah, that this is the exact idea that I had when I read this book. This is societal existential boredom on a social scale. Okay, so thank you very much for this.
Okay, thank you very much, Mariusz, for this insightful talk. And let's open the floor for discussion, comments, observations, doubts. Yeah, so Andy Runkel, please.
I was just wondering about, because obviously the novel's sort of about that idea of, like it can't be saved anymore. We're just going to sort of abandon, at least that's kind of what I got from your presentation, that kind of idea of, we'll just let external forces take over in order to, solve that problem for us, that sort of boredom that is like taking over everything. And I was wondering what stands in the way of like reform, or is there no motivation for reform, or does that idea of like reforming the empire come into the story at all, or is that just sort of out of reach, or people can't even imagine that?
Yeah, if you have this structural inertia, so you're used to being idle, being passive, yeah, that everything is governed from lower, higher level, yeah, that emperor said, or the colonial office said, and we just follow orders. Yeah, we are passive, and this is from generation to generation is more and more natural state of being, yeah. And then after some generations, nobody see that there is any slight chance of any meaningful change by itself. So we seek for the solutions outside. Yeah, that the war will. Yeah, I suppose this is exactly the situation before First World War. There is a stalemate of powers. There is a boredom. Felt by some subjects of these empires, citizens, and ruling classes. Okay, so let's fight. Yeah, let's fight. We cannot solve our boredom problem by our own. We need external solution. So let's fight. And I suppose this is something similar.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I have myself a very short question. Well, there's a lot of points very interesting about this kind of social, cultural character of boredom, as if it was a certain stimulus or existential state of mind of the time, according to Julien Gracq. I would like to ask you about two things. The first one is that apparently, in a close way to Tirna, you were stressing the depoliticizing character of boredom, as if boredom was a certain, so to speak, opium for the people, or something that disallow us to react or protest. So this is one of the questions, and the other one is about this boring hedonism. This is for me super interesting, since if we go, for example, to other literary coordinates, that is, for example, to the portrait of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde, or if we go to this gorgeous novel called A Rêveur by Huysmans. I don't even remember now the title in English. I think it's Contra Nature.
Against the nature, I suppose.
Yeah, that's it. A Rêveur. Yeah, against the grain or against nature. There's this sort of absolutely aristocratic boredom, or this boring hedonism, that is these people that have everything, all the luxuries, all the drugs, the best meals, etc., and they're kind of facing precisely because of they have all, they facing a certain, I don't know, emptiness of life or a deprivation of existential meaning. So I don't know how we could think about this about boredom and class condition, and about boredom and class conscience, since here it apparently boredom or this boring hedonism is a privilege, but according to other narratives, boredom is precisely, we could say, the punishment, or for example, the working class or the workers at the factory that are condemned like a modern Sisyphus to repeat endlessly the same movement, right? So there's a certain boring hedonism as a privilege of a high class, and a certain boring punishment related to a lower class, but it's still boredom, the way in which you measure them. Well, I don't know. I think it's super interesting this point.
Okay, both points are. There is a lot of discussion. This is huge points. Yeah, but about this depolitization, I suppose it could go both ways because we see, and even Josefa authored some paper that suggested that revolutions can be also somehow caused by this kind of societal boredom. Yeah, so it can go both ways. In this novel, also we have a part of the elite and part of the common people that anticipate the war, anticipate the doom of the old, and they collaborate with the enemy. So this is, I suppose, a kind of rebellion. Maybe not. As we see revolutions today, but this is a kind of against state activity. Yeah, so it could go both ways. Yeah, like a passivity. Yeah, it could eventuate in passive stance or in active stance, but it cannot be always a revolution as we know it. Yeah, but some actions of individuals or groups that are against the regime. And second is hedonism. Yeah, the problem is that if you don't have any constraints, so every particular action has less meaning because you cannot you don't have to struggle to grasp something, to have something, to achieve something. Yeah, this is just laying down here or there. Yeah, this is so easy. There is no challenge here. So the hedonism, the boredom of the upper classes, I suppose this is agentic boredom. Yeah, so you have a surplus of agency, and if there is a surplus of agency, it could be boring because you cannot decide whether to choose this or this because they are equally meaningless. Actually, and the class element, oh, this is a huge a huge point. I suppose there are what Josefa said earlier. Here are the boredom of upper classes, boredom of working classes. There are different experiences, different causes, different outcomes. Probably, yeah. The phenomenology of those two states can be a bit different. Yeah, and we could research it, analyze it, and so on. But in the novel, there were no lower classes presented. Actually, not so much. Yeah, but the upper classes boredom is a privilege, but also a curse. Because, as you said, as you see in one of the quotes, yeah, if you rule too long, yeah, you're exhausted. This is your curse. Yeah, you cannot share it with common people. Yeah, this is your burden as well, because the ruling means also boredom in this kind of systems like this. Yeah, and I suppose this resembling Venice not coincidentally, yeah, the Venice Empire, yeah, city-state having empire and then being a symbol of modern decadence as well. Yeah, so if you look for clues about this conundrum, yeah, maybe history is one of many possible ways.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Okay, we're done. Time is up. There's many comments in the chat. None of them is a question, but rather suggestions of comments. So I may leave you the desire to read them or not. In any case, thank you very much, Mariusz.